All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into something a little different, something a little unexpected.
Oh,
We're going into the world of gentlemen's clubs,
okay.
but not the kind that you might be thinking of right away.
Interesting.
So picture this, our listeners getting ready for a trip to Jomtien, Thailand,
Okay.
and they want to explore the local gentlemen's club scene
All right.
for the BBQ and jacuzzi.
For the BBQ and jacuzzi, that's not what I usually think of when I hear gentlemen's club.
Right. It's a fascinating twist.
Yeah.
We're diving into a Reddit thread on Art Pattaya,
Okay.
where seasoned visitors are giving their tips and recommendations and even etiquette advice
Sounds fun.
for our listener.
Lead the way.
So first up, we have a user raving about Passion Gents Club,
Okay.
the highlight free BBQ.
Free BBQ.
Apparently, all you need is a minimum spend of $285 backpack rate, which seems pretty reasonable.
Ah, yes. The classic free BBQ tactic.
Right.
It's clever marketing, really.
Yeah.
Gets you in the door and then a few drinks, maybe some snacks.
Yeah.
Suddenly that 285 bot doesn't seem so small.
Exactly. They got it all figured out. And get this.
What?
They even have jacuzzis in the short time rooms.
Jacuzzi in the short time rooms.
And not exactly what I was expecting.
That's an interesting detail.
Makes you wonder what kind of gentlemanly pursuits are happening in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Another user recommends high rollers in Pattaya.
Okay.
They're praising its spacious layout, and they've got sports TVs. And wait for it.
Okay. I'm waiting.
Competition-sized pool tables.
Competition-sized pool tables.
Now we're talking.
Maybe that's the real gentlemanly pursuit here.
Right.
A battle of skill and strategy on the green felt.
First jacuzzi, now pool tables.
So sporty.
Who knew gentlemen's clubs were so sporty?
Well, they do say variety's the spice of life.
That's true.
Speaking of varieties, somebody also mentioned a Discord group called Buzzin' Pattaya,
Okay.
where you can find lineups for different clubs.
Oh, wow. So it's like online dating, but for gentlemen's clubs.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating.
But another user chimed in and said that Discord isn't as reliable as Facebook or Line groups for that kind of info.
The ever-changing landscape of online communities.
I guess even gentlemen's club enthusiasts have their preferred digital hangouts.
Right. It's like navigating a social labyrinth,
Yeah.
but with the added intrigue of jacuzzi and pool tables.
And BBQ, don't forget the BBQ.
Of course, the BBQ, the glue that holds this whole gentlemanly world together. But on a more serious note, this divergence of opinions online really shows that there's no one right answer when it comes to navigating these clubs.
Yeah.
Each one seems to have its own personality,
You're sure?
its own quirks, its own dedicated following.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole exploration so intriguing.
Right.
We're not just talking about a generic type of establishment.
Yeah.
We're delving into a diverse and fascinating subculture
Right.
with its own unique set of rules and rituals.
Well said. And speaking of rules and rituals, let's dive a little deeper into the etiquette of Jomtien gentlemen's clubs. What can our listener expect in terms of social norms and expectations?
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling it's a far cry from, say, a traditional British gentlemen's club.
You're absolutely right. This is where things get really interesting because the social dynamics in these Jomtien clubs seem to be like a unique blend of traditional Thai hospitality and, well, let's just say a more modern, internationally influenced approach to entertainment.
Okay, I'm all ears. Break it down for me. What makes these places tick?
Well, based on this Reddit thread, it seems like the atmosphere is more laid back and social than you might find in other parts of the world. It's not just about, shall we say, the main attraction. There's a real emphasis on creating like a comfortable and enjoyable space for patrons to hang out, whether they're shooting pool, watching sports, or just chatting over some BBQ.
So it's like a social club, but with a spicy twist.
Exactly. And that's where the cultural aspect comes in. You know, Thai culture is known for its warmth and hospitality, and that seems to extend to these establishments as well. There's a sense of camaraderie among the patrons, and even the staff seem to be genuinely friendly and welcoming.
That's interesting. So it's not just about the transactional aspect. There's an element of genuine connection and social interaction as well.
Precisely. And that's something that our listener might find quite refreshing, especially compared to the often more impersonal and transactional nature of gentlemen's clubs in other parts of the world.
Speaking of refreshing, you mentioned earlier that these clubs offer short-time rooms.
Yes.
I have to admit, I'm not entirely familiar with that terminology. Could you shed some light on what exactly that entails?
Of course, in this context, short time refers to a private room that's rented for a well shorter period of time than a typical hotel room.
Oh.
These rooms are often used for, let's just say, more intimate encounters.
Ah, I see. So it's a bit like a romantic getaway, but on a more condensed timeline.
You could say that, yes, it's all part of the services that these clubs provide, and it's something that our listener might want to be aware of, even if they're primarily interested in the BBQ and jacuzzi.
Right. Good point. It's all about being informed and making choices that align with one's own comfort levels and preferences.
Exactly. And while the Reddit thread doesn't get too much into the specifics of etiquette, the general tone suggests a sense of mutual respect and understanding among patrons.
Okay.
It's not a place for judgment or harassment, and everyone seems to be there to have a good time.
That's reassuring to hear. It sounds like a relatively safe and welcoming environment, even for someone who might be new to the scene.
Indeed, and remember, there's always the option to observe and take things at your own pace. No one's expecting you to jump into anything you're not comfortable with.
Solid advice. Now, we've been dancing around the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Okay.
While our source material focuses mainly on amenities and logistics,
Yeah.
it's pretty clear that companionship is a big part of the appeal for many visitors to these clubs.
Absolutely. And while we won't delve into the complexities of the adult entertainment industry here,
Right.
it's important to acknowledge that it's an integral part of the gentleman's club experience in this context.
Right. We have to be honest and acknowledge that aspect, even if our listeners' personal interests might lie elsewhere. But I think it's also important to remember that these clubs offer more than just that one aspect. They're also social spaces, entertainment venues, and even, dare I say, cultural hubs in their own right.
I completely agree, and that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. We're peeling back the layers of a seemingly simple concept.
Right.
And discovering a whole world of nuances, social dynamics, and cultural influences.
It's like an anthropological expedition, but with cocktails and jacuzzi.
Exactly. And speaking of cocktails and jacuzzi, perhaps it's time to shift our focus back to the more recreational aspects of these clubs. After all, our listeners specifically interested in the BBQ and jacuzzi experience.
Right back to the BBQ. I have to admit, I'm quite curious about this free BBQ situation. Is it like a full-blown buffet or just a few skewers to whet your appetite?
That's a great question, and unfortunately the Reddit thread isn't too specific on the details of the culinary offerings, but based on the enthusiastic reviews, I'd wager it's more than just a token snack.
Interesting. It seems like the BBQ itself could be a whole separate deep dive. But for now, let's stick to the bigger picture. What other insights can we glean from the Reddit thread about the overall gentleman's club experience in Jomtien?
Well, one thing that struck me was the emphasis on sports and entertainment. The mention of competition-sized pool tables and sports TVs suggests that these clubs are catering to a diverse range of interests, not just those typically associated with gentlemen's clubs.
So it's not just about, well, it's about having a good time socializing and maybe even indulging in some friendly competition.
Precisely, and that's something that our listener might find quite appealing, especially if they're looking for a more relaxed and social atmosphere.
Right, it's like a choose-your-own-adventure kind of gentleman's club.
Yeah.
You can go for the jacuzzi, the pool, the BBQ, or maybe all three. It's about creating a personalized experience that caters to your individual preferences.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole exploration so intriguing. We're not just talking about a generic type of establishment. We're delving into a diverse and fascinating subculture with its own unique set of rules and rituals.
Well said. And speaking of rules and rituals, let's dive a little deeper into the etiquette of Jomtien gentlemen's clubs. What can our listener expect in terms of social norms and expectations? Because I have a feeling it's a far cry from, say, a traditional British gentleman's club.
You're absolutely right. This is where things get really interesting because the social dynamics in these Jomtien clubs are really a blend of, like you said, traditional Thai hospitality, but also a more modern approach to entertainment.
It's funny how just one little Reddit thread can open up this whole new world and change how you think about things.
It really is. I mean, the internet can be a powerful tool for stuff like that.
I went into this thinking we'd be talking about smoky rooms and men in suits. Instead, we're talking about jacuzzi, BBQ, competition-sized pool tables.
It's such an interesting mix of the traditional and the totally unexpected.
And it really shows that what's considered a gentleman's club in one country could be totally different somewhere else.
Exactly. And that's what's important for our listener to remember.
Right.
They're going into a place that's very different from what they might be used to.
So what are some key takeaways for our listener as they navigate this scene?
Well, first I'd say embrace the unexpected.
Okay.
Don't go in with these rigid expectations about what you think a gentleman's club should be.
Right.
Be open to new experiences, new forms of entertainment, new ways of socializing.
It's like traveling to a new country. You don't expect it to be exactly the same as home.
Exactly. You go in with a sense of adventure, ready to see what it's all about. And that's the same here.
So ditch the preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And maybe pack a swimsuit for the jacuzzi.
But on a more serious note, I'd also say to do your research.
Okay.
Read up on the customs and etiquette. Familiarize yourself with the different places, and maybe even check out some online communities for insider tips.
That's always a good idea to be prepared.
And finally, I'd say the most important thing is be respectful.
Yeah.
Treat everyone with courtesy and kindness.
Yeah.
Be mindful of cultural differences, and remember that you're a guest.
That's a great point. So, as we finish up this deep dive, I think the main takeaway is it's a journey of discovery.
Yeah.
It's not just about the entertainment, it's about different cultural ideas and how people interact.
I completely agree.
And maybe that's the best thing you can get out of any travel experience.
For sure.
Whether it's to another country or just to a different part of your own town.
Yeah.
So listener, as you get ready for your trip to Jomtien, remember?
What's that?
Embrace the unexpected, do your research, be respectful, and most importantly, have fun.
Exactly.
You might just discover a whole new meaning of what it means to be a gentleman or gentlewoman, of course.
What was that?